pues one, yeah. Oko nyamili, nyamili, koko nyamili, nyamili, koko nyamili, nyamili, koko nyamili, nyamili. Ibole, Igbo bunu ndama mihe. Ibole, Igbo bunu ndama mihe. Ebulanyelu, anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konyo seke. Anamabara no n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye seke. Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike. Koko nyamini, nyamini, koko nyamini, nyamini, koko nyamini, nyamini, koko nyamini, nyamini. Hey, cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezi one, yeah. Cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezi one, yeah. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ihe aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ụmụ Igbo, ndị anyị were omenala dowe na-asụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Ndị anyị were omenala Igbo dowe na-azụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke na ọ dịrọzi mma. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke ọ dịrọ mma. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke na ọ dịrọzi mma. Hey, ụmụ Igbo, anya si na Chineke anwụnugo nuo, ewere Chineke dobe n'akwụkwọ, a na-agọzi akwụkwọ. Anyị si na Chineke na anwụnugo nuo, ewere Chineke.
Dewo to all of you. Good morning. I don't know where you are. It's a bit chilly. I'm kind of chill this morning, so I thought I would just wrap myself in a little African comfort and just be warm as we have this conversation today. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all well. We've got some sickness around here. Some individuals are not here today because of sick parents, and Dibias is in Florida, enjoying with his wife and his stepson. His stepson plays football. So they have a match there. So he's there just enjoying. And that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay. But I'm going to have a guest come in. Akachi is going to join me a little later. She's running a little late. But we are going to continue with our discussion about being one with Chineke. How is everyone doing? Hope your whole family is doing well. You know, look at me, inhaling and exhaling, you know, and it's just a powerful reminder that we are so blessed. I know I'm blessed because I'm here. We tend to focus on things that are not even important, and we don't remember that what's important in life is who we are, the opportunity that we have to celebrate life. A fully grown up tree cannot be bent into a walking stick. That was what we talked about last time, but I kind of want to continue that sort of thinking. But this time we're talking about brainwashing and how that leading to African poverty and spiritual decadence, if we may say. So I'm just going to keep that as my what was the word I'm looking for, as the focus today. Because when you're a fully grown tree, you're not going to be brainwashed. You're not going to find yourself in the kind of situation we find ourselves today. I want to start by, reminding you something that my great aunt used to teach me. You see, my great aunt, who's joined the ancestors now, she died at 86, almost 87. She passed away. When mom and dad were not around, you went to her. She had a tendency to smoke. I don't know if you call it smoking, but she loved tobacco. The tobacco the snuff. She used to put that through her nose all the time, but she wasn't educated, not by a long shot, at least not by our standard quote of education. But she was somebody you could go to in the middle of your frustrations and concern. You could go to her and she would just share with you about her own life. And it was just fascinating to hear this elder talk about how life was for her. And here you are sitting next to her and you want to complain about life. And then she'll just tell you to listen to her life. And then you make the judgment how bad you think yours is. And even though I love to take my problems to my mother and my father, but I loved my great aunt. Her name was Daddy Bome. And she lived in one little room in our house back then, when, quite frankly, wasn't how large your home was. It's how comfortable, how cozy it was. So she stayed in this little room. And she was always available because my mother was taking care of her. And she'll be there with her tobacco, and you come in with your conflicts, and she'll look you and she'll peer in your eyes and she'll tell you, okay, in effect, spill the beans. What are you here for? What's the problem? And then after you spill the beans, she will take some of her snuff in her nose and she'll look at you and she'll tell you about her story. And then she always ended by saying, I want you to look at life in terms of abundance. Look at life in terms of unlimited abundance. What is wrong with us sometimes is the limitations we put around the word abundance, because we're looking for things that mean nothing. We don't celebrate just the simple. And she would tell you to inhale. And she put her hand on your chest and she says, inhale again. And you do it again. She says, do you see that? How lucky you are. How lucky you are. Because there's so many who can't do that. You have unlimited abundance. You're here. Whatever your issues are, I want you to think in terms of your total well-being. The peace that you have, just the fact that you're inhaling and exhaling, that's peace beyond understanding. And if you're lucky, you'll have many, many years to be able to do that. Many, many years of going through the journey, inhaling and exhaling. And you kind of got used to, once you walk into her space, you want to do the exercise of inhaling and exhaling, because that's the first thing she wants to tell you. She says that all Chineke wants you to do is to enjoy the moment. Don't focus on the past. Whatever reason you came to see me today, don't focus on that. You have better things to do. You have a mountaintop to climb. And she'll make you look up. She says, see up there? You're going to get there one step at a time. Whatever you're experiencing right now is a temporary thing. As a matter of fact, that's a stepping stone to that mountaintop that Chineke wants you to get to. She never saw any problem she couldn't solve. At least in her mind, it's all solvable. And she'll convince you that you can solve it. Daddy Bome would tell you that this journey you're on, Chineke is always with you. And she put her hand, her old wrinkled hands on you. She tells you that Chineke is in her. Can you feel her? Can you feel Chineke coming through her to touch you? I miss her. And she tells you, no matter what you've gone through, no matter where you are right now, start going the opposite direction. Start your journey today. I'm saying this to you because I have a friend of mine who's going through some challenges, and I just remembered Daddy Bome. And I just want her to know, and maybe this applies to all of you. Start the journey over. Don't focus on what has happened, because it will happen again. That's life. Life recycles itself. It's not the fact that it wouldn't happen again. It's how are you handling it? What are you doing about it? Munachiso, walk with Chineke. Have the confidence that this journey, that you can get up there if you believe in it. Look, it's happening to me. You know, I have things that I want to do, and sometimes I want to know who's going to help me. But what I've realized is that on my journey, I can choose to bring somebody or something with me along the way, or I can get on this journey on my own. It's up to me to figure out what I would need on this journey, what I would need to eat on this journey, what I need to wear. Who needs to come with me? Do I go alone? Just start, Owa. Just start. That's what Dad Diboma was saying. Just start. Leave behind what happened. This is the way our ancestors taught us. Thank God she made it to be 86, because she's an ancestor. And so now and then I remember her. Dad Dibome. I remember the lesson she gave me. She gave us little kids who remember, if we just remember that she lived. She wasn't a good-looking woman, not by a long shot. She was thin, very frail, but she had power in her voice. She had wisdom in her voice, in her words. She told me not to focus on what has happened in the past, what anybody has done to me. I should just start my journey afresh. Are you on a journey? Just remember, you're not alone. Chineke is on that journey. Again, it's up to you how you travel. It's up to you if you want to bring somebody along with you. You can start this renewal journey whenever, wherever you like. As ebe onye mkpumkpu koro, ebe aka ruru onye mkpumkpu yoko akpa ya. Wherever a short person, however high a short person can hang his coat, that's where he hangs his coat. Wherever you are is good enough. Whoever you are, you're good enough. But all of us have a journey. Start yours afresh. If you didn't do well yesterday, start again. That's what Daddy Bome said. The only requirement that Chineke gives you is to take one step every day until you reach that top. And you never really reach that top. It's a journey. You will keep going until you're 6 feet under. You're always going to try and reach that top. Because let me tell you something about rich people. They never reach the top. They're always working, always trying to get to that next level. And so it is with us. So it is with you. Daddy Bome said that. You're going to get to that top, but that top is when you're no longer breathing, because life demands that you keep moving, even in the middle of your challenge. When you arrive there, when you arrive to that top you're seeking, you will know, because right there you will meet Chineke. That's why we always hope that we get to be at least 80 in our culture. Once you get to be age 80, then that means that you're now an ancestor. That people will pour libations in your name, in your honor. When I pour libation, I call my ancestors who have made it to age 80. The rest of them are on the journey. So are you prepared for your journey? Are you prepared? I think what is important before we delve into the conversation today is this reminder. We're not alone in this whole universe. We're just but a minutest part of the universe. Even the whole notion that we have dominion over anything is foolishness. We don't have dominion in anything. The only thing we have dominion over is ourselves, our individual selves. We just like the oceans, everything in the universe is part of this whole creation that Chineke created. You're just a part of it. You don't have dominion over anything. It's just a part of it. We're part of the whole. The only thing we can do is take care of ourselves. Don't focus on what somebody did to you, what's in the past. Focus on now. Focus on who you are right now. Don't focus on who you're going to dominate. Focus on you. Build yourself up. It's a long journey if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you're on a long journey. It's not going to end anytime soon. Unless, of course, the Creator decides it's time for you to move along. Recreate yourself. But if you're going to go on this long journey to age 80, don't focus. Don't look back. I'm lecturing myself as well. I'm lecturing myself as well. Because I can tell you very honestly, every one of us has a story to tell. We are just a part of Chineke's creation. Remember that. Just a tiny bit of Chineke's creation. Chineke designs for us to find happiness in life and change the paradigm. How do you find happiness when you're focused on the past? We must see ourselves as a part of everything, and continue to grow. See, when we focus on dominating others instead of ourselves, we falter. Because those individuals that you're trying to take over, they're going to fight you. They're trying to survive as well. And we must begin the process of not embracing those things that keep us from seeing that we are part of the whole scheme of things, that we're not owners of anything, and they're not owners of anything. Nobody owns you. Nobody can control your mind. I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, y'all got to hold on to your mind. Your mind is a tool, and it's just being disintegrated by other people and their expectations. The only thing you have dominion over is you. Start believing that. So that whatever happened in the past, don't focus on that. Whatever happened in the past, don't focus on that. Focus on you right now. Visualize yourself as part of nature. You know what? That's what I love about African spirituality. I love the fact that African spirituality reminds us that we are part of nature. And if you're a part of nature, you respect nature. If you're a part of nature, you love nature. If you believe you're part of nature, then every other human being who is a part of that nature, you have to honor and respect. They too are on their journey. Focus on your journey. Don't waste too much time focusing on someone else's journey. I want to play this song. You know, some of you have heard this song before, but I want to play it again. But I want you to look at it differently from just the fact that it's a song. It's just music. I want you to pay attention to what it's saying, to what you're seeing, not just what you're hearing, but what you're seeing visually. When I talk about the fact that we are part of this world, I want you to see part of this world that we are part of. And so when we thank Chineke, we're not just thanking Chineke for just us. We're thanking Chineke for everything that we are part of. Everything we don't have dominion over, even though we think that we have dominion. We don't. We don't. You respect not just yourself, respect everything. Ulong song ke Chineke kaina bata. Into Chineke's space we come in. I just want you to listen. You've heard this song before, but I just kind of compiled some pictures just to give you visual understanding that we are not the only thing on this earth. We share this world with every other, even the tiniest amoeba, the ants, they all have a purpose. And when we thank God, just thank God for just yourself, Chineke for yourself. We thank Chineke for all that we are a part of.
Nsọ gị chukwu ka anyị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka anyị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ụmụ eliwa yikọta n'otu, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ka anyị jikọ ofe ya ofufe godian, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Godianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru.
Yes, let us give thanks for everything. Everything in this world, we are just a part of it. We're just a minuscule part of life. All the things we see. And you know what? You will change your mind each and every day when you realize that in the whole scheme of things, though you're experiencing some little troubles, Chineke is not mad at you. You're not diminished by your troubles. It's just part of being a part of this whole universe. You just have to work through it. Chineke is not abandoning you because all these animals or nature, everything is all part of Chineke's creation. You're just a part of it. So you have to learn to live with nature. We've been taught that we have to find the Chineke elsewhere. But if that visual doesn't tell you what Chineke is, I don't know what will. Ekeleni lediri Chineke, and everything that is a part of our existence. Everything. Yagazino. And it is my pleasure to bring in my guest today, Akachi. Akachi, how are you?
Ndewa, how are you?
Ndewa, fine. I'm fine. Odenoma. How are you doing today?
Odema.
I love your scarf.
I'm good. Thank you.
So I shroud myself with love today.
Yes.
With the warmth of my ashoke.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. And now I bring Dibias. Oh, no, Dibias no me. Morning. How are you?
Very good. I can't complain.
Good to see you. I hope your dad is doing better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's still in the hospital with the, recovering from surgery. So we're just, getting through that. He's not used to being sick or having anything like that. So it's, he hasn't wanted to talk to too many people or anything like that. But it's, he's getting through it. So
That's good. Well, welcome, ladies. Welcome so much. Today we were, I, as you can see, I left the banner that says a fully grown tree cannot be bent into a walking stick. Even though the particular subject today is on brain, brainwashing and the colonial after effects problems leading to Africa's poverty. I kind of want us to focus on poverty and how it's not a spiritual condition to be in, so that the African people need to really look at what's causing us to be in poverty. That is not where spiritually we're supposed to be. That's not where it's designed for us to be. And we should not accept it. We should not accept poverty. We should not accept seeing our people struggling the way they struggle. And we walk past it. We need to actually start thinking, how do we solve the poverty of the African people, of the world? Let me be clear. Every part of the world that we're in, every part of the world that there are human beings, we need to be concerned about poverty. But this particular situation, we're talking about Africa's poverty and what's causing it. Brainwashing. Brainwash is forcing. Let me just kind of define what it is to be brainwashed. I'm sure you all have your definition, but from my perspective, it is accepting ideas or things from other people that doesn't allow you to present your own way of doing things or your own way of thinking. It doesn't allow you to think, to make decisions on your own. You have to make it based on other people. That means that you don't engage in logical thinking anymore. That's what it is. When you're brainwashed, you don't think anymore. And I think that you will agree with me that much of the encounters that we have with our own people, they're not thinking anymore. Because as I indicated by showing the video, we're part of the whole scheme of things. We're part of the world, and there's food and everything that's available to us. Even if it means that you have to walk miles to go get some food, don't just sit there and say there's nothing to eat. In fact, you know what? When I met my mother-in-law, she used to cook. Well, actually, it was my husband's adopted mother. She used to cook. She would go to the backyard and she'd pick all kinds of stuff. She wasn't wealthy by a long shot, but she would go in the backyard and pick wild plants. And to me, that was the tastiest. As a matter of fact, I used to look forward to going to her place because she would make these awesome greens with, wild greens. She didn't plant them. She just goes around and finds them. She washes them. She cooks up a storm, and it's just. We need to get in the habit of learning how to survive. Not survive by going to Kroger's. Not just that. If you can't do Kroger's, is there something else you can do? No, seriously. There are people who lived, in the wilds. And of course, when civilization supposedly met them, we considered them wild. The people in the Amazon and all that sort. They knew how to work. They didn't have Kroger's to go to or Publix to go to or wherever it is we shop. And I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily bad about that. I'm just saying that they didn't starve. They didn't starve. We need to understand why we have poverty and redefine poverty. Because not having a television, not having a fancy house, not having a car, that should not be our definition of poverty. Poverty is not having something to eat. And if we can get our people to focus, particularly in areas where people are poor, if they can focus on finding a means to eat. Now, if they don't have it, there's nothing you can do. We have to give them help. But if there's an opportunity for them to get something to eat from nature, that's what nature is there for. I remember during the war, we didn't have anything to eat. We had to fight and get not cockroaches. Okay, that's where I draw the line. But we had the mice and bugs. We ate everything, anything. Even my cousin used to teach us how to catch rats. There are some tasty little things when you're hungry, when you don't have a choice. Oh yes, we ate birds. I knew. Let me not fool you now. I knew how to catch those birds, honey. I used to use my slingshot, get them, and we will fry those stuff and eat it. But what I'm saying in effect is our focus was not what the definition of poverty. We didn't see ourselves as poor necessarily in terms of the worldly goods. We saw ourselves as poor in terms of what we eat. So we had to go and find it. So brainwashing doesn't allow us to do our own thinking. We are convinced that this is the way it should be. And if we can't do it, then we're poor. Then we can't think logically we can't think ourselves out of our situation. Let me tell you something that happens when you are brainwashed. You know, you hear about xenophobic attacks on African foreigners in South Africa. Have you heard about that? Well, let me tell you about that. That's part of mental that's colonization, where you find that the Black people in South Africa, and quite frankly, that's the worst thing that the colonial masters did to Africa, was this mental slavery. It continues. People think it's over. No, it's not. It's not. It's still there. But what it is, it is not. It's even worse than having your worldly goods taken from you. Yes. When your mind is stolen, that's the worst kind of slavery.
Yes.
Even though the chains are not there, the mind is the biggest tool for enslavement, re-enslavement. It's not about the diamonds. It's not about the wealth of Africa that they're stealing. Yes. That's important. But it's the mind in South Africa. The South African Blacks, they did not fight the Europeans. No. They fought each other. They have been convinced that the work that the Europeans do is so complicated, is far above their grade, their understanding, that they can't do such jobs, that they can't handle such things. So they didn't fight for that. You know what they fought for? They fought for the little scraps, the dirty jobs that are available. They fought each other for that. They didn't fight each other for the top jobs because they were convinced that they couldn't do it. We do that today. We have been made in our minds, in the African people's minds, that we are good enough. See, we're that tree. They bent the tree. We're now walking sticks.
Yes.
We believe that the dirty jobs is all we're good enough to do. Now let's go come to the United States. Excuse me. Back then in the United States, when you had slavery, pardon me, you had the house slaves, you had the field slaves. The house slaves thought that they were better than the field slaves because they were closer to the master. They lived in the master's house. They slept in the same space, not on the same beds or anything like that. But they were better because they could eat whatever the master threw down. But as long as the master did that, as long as it's the food that the master ate, somehow they thought they were better than those who were fending for themselves, trying to figure out what to eat in the fields. And we Africans, when we travel outside the continent and we go back home, we think we are all that. We're better. We can't speak the language anymore. I can tell you how many of us go there and we pretend we can't speak anymore. We don't know the language anymore. Speak English, please.
Wow.
Speak English, please.
Wow.
I remember the woman that came to my place and I said, Ndewo. I tried to shake her hand and say, Ndewo. She didn't want to shake my hands because I said, Ndewo. Oh, Biko, don't ask Biko, don't speak that. That's the devil language. Huh?
That's the devil language.
Yes.
Wow.
She didn't want to hear that. She didn't want me to speak that. We always feel proud. And why is that? Because they've been convinced that the closer they are to something other than who they are. If we as human beings are just but a speck of what the universe is about, how then do we relinquish our own significance to somebody else who's at the same level as we are? you don't realize that the reason why other nations are rich is because of you.
Mm-hmm.
They take from you. They take your resources. They take your mind. That's not how Chineke wants us to be. That is not the purpose we're here for. We're supposed to meld with the rest of the universe. We're supposed to walk in holy boldness. I'm going to invite you to say a few words based on what I've shared today. Dr. Monet.
Yes.
Go ahead. Thoughts?
I absolutely believe, you know, and agree with what you say, Your Excellency. Of course, you have so much knowledge and wisdom to share that is so valuable to us, you know, Pan-African knowledge that we need today, because our people are suffering and we're in, like you said, we're in poverty, but we're in poverty in our minds.
Yes.
Our minds are in poverty. And so we have to, when we heal our minds, when we get out of slavery in our minds, then we will be able to move forward and be able to create something great. I was looking at, me and my husband, we were looking at a documentary, and it was talking about all of the things during segregation. When Black people here in America were separate from whites, and how we build such beautiful communities, and we created such wealth in our communities, and we had a sense of pride that we created this. But then when it was opened up, we had a need or a feeling that we had to go to the white is right. Go to the white establishments, go to everything that was white. There was a certain level of superiority that we thought that white people have, and we still think that white people have. And that is not just here in America, it's around the world.
Yes.
So part of the reason, yes, some of our communities were destroyed, but I was also learning that we destroyed some of our accomplishments by taking the money out of our communities and going to other communities to spend our money, because we thought it was superior than what we have in our own communities, when our communities, we had everything. Everything that you can imagine was there. Even when you talk about sports. Now, my father was a Division I basketball coach for over 25 years. And, you know, most of that is run, a lot of the players are Black, but a lot of the administration, the majority of them are white. And it's very hard for a Black person to get into that realm, to become a coach, to become in the higher take higher administrator roles within that realm of sports. But before, when segregation was alive, when we had segregation, we had our own Black teams, and our Black teams were better than the white teams. And the white people were coming to see the Black teams. Can you imagine if we only would have kept what we had, if we only would have just patronized our own Black teams and other people were coming? Can you imagine the wealth that we would have now in our community? The sports industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why is it that we feel that we have to go outside of ourselves? Why is it when we think to patronize a service, we don't think of our people first? Why are we not teaching our kids that? I would say, you know, in giving homage to my ancestors, especially my grandmother, who taught me, I thank her for teaching me. If you're looking for something, if you're buying something, look into your community first. So we need to get back to that. We are enslaved and in poverty because first it's in our minds and then our actions. Because our actions are taking the wealth out of our communities, which is taking the wealth from our people. It's nothing wrong with patronizing other people, but other communities, they keep the wealth in their community first, and then they go outside of their community because they understand self-preservation.
Yes.
They understand that, and nothing is wrong with that. So we need to understand that. We need to start building our own communities, getting back to our own communities, and having confidence in our own and who we are as African people.
That's
It's
right.
nothing wrong with being African.
No.
So
No,
we
and
have,
that's it. That's the conditioning.
yeah.
That's the conditioning, that there's something wrong with it. That I want to hear. Thank you so much. I want to hear what Akachi has to say about it. Then we'll go to Dibias. And Dibias, welcome. I'm glad to see you here.
Welcome. Glad to see
Yeah,
you.
nice to see you, Uncle.
Wow, that's a lot to follow. You know, going back to the food and nourishment, when I think about, I think there's like 40,000 people who are homeless in California.
Mm.
And I went hiking there, I guess about a couple months ago, and I was on the land of the Kumeyaw people, indigenous people there. And it was interesting because, if you look around, it looks like there's nothing to eat. But the Kumeyaw and those people who still have that knowledge and understanding, there was food everywhere. And I just thought, like, wow, if I got stranded there, I wouldn't know what to eat. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty smart. I would figure something out. But I couldn't point to really anything and tell you that was food. But there was food everywhere.
Yes.
And that was amazing to me because there literally is food everywhere.
Yes.
But because people have lost their culture
Yes.
and been robbed of their culture, we can't see the riches that are right underneath our feet. And so, when I think about the homelessness, when I think about like also what's happening in Hawaii, there's an influx of continental United States Americans moving to Hawaii.
Yes.
And the very people who are indigenous to the land are homeless. And it was interesting to me because their ancestors, I'm not saying that they should be, that they shouldn't have access to modern domiciles, okay? But they're living in tents. They're living to some degree, like really in squalor. And I'm like, I visited the Polynesian Center of Culture and I saw your indigenous housing, which was beautiful. I saw how you all prepared food. I saw how you all had shelter, cleaned yourself, made clothes, made textiles, all these different things. But because those people have lost their culture, they're having to like find money so they can fill up their gas cans so they can fill up a generator. And then, live in a tent that's flimsy, that's not, as sturdy housing as the housing that they could make. Like if they literally had to move back into the bush, they would be better off than living on the street. And I just thought like their minds, that's the brainwashing, right? Because they were removed, like they're the generations of people who were removed from speaking their native language and having those traditions because of colonization by way of the United States, by the way. We stole Hawaii, or I didn't. They did. They stole Hawaii. And I just think about how poverty is created by this economic structure that we're living in. And that poverty was created by the robbing of people's culture and the oppression of people's, and it doesn't have to be. And so I think as African people, sometimes I feel like we look down on indigenous ways of living.
Yes, we do.
But really, it was far more advanced. I mean, it didn't create as much waste.
Yes.
It was sustainable. It wasn't toxic or harmful to the environment. The dyes, I don't know what dye they use for this. It might be something that's permeating my skin and causing all kinds of free radicals.
Yes.
It's like we had a superior way of living And I think that we could have evolved it into modern, it could have been modernized. But I think until African people are proud to be African and respect those ways that they think were backwards, they're not backwards. They were actually advanced.
Yes.
We'll continue to be in this situation.
You know, when you look at, and I'll bring Dibias in a second, but if you go to some of our cities, you know, and that's why I say, when you have a society that has realized that they've been bamboozled, and they go back to their old ways, to their values, they do better. I always go back to Rwanda, you know, and how this little country that has been so devastated in the past just picked itself up because they're doing a whole lot of things the traditional way. You know, they're respecting everyone. They're respecting women. They're respecting their culture. They're respecting so much. So they're doing so much better. But when you have these individuals, look at Aba. Aba used to be a place. This is a part of eastern part of Nigeria. It used to be a place that, I mean, there was nothing that these people can see that they could not duplicate. They could duplicate anything. They didn't need anything to come from abroad. They duplicated it. They were selling amongst themselves, developing amongst themselves. But if you go there now, everything is from China. I mean, you have to buy from China or wherever else. The streets are laden with filth. When you're brainwashed, you don't see the good. You don't think anymore. You don't see the good in you. You only find good in someone else. You know, and then when they give you those things and you buy it from foreigners and all that sort of thing, you don't know how to dispose of them. They litter your streets. They cause ill health. Some of them, it gets so bad that they try to burn it. You don't know what's in those plastic. You're burning. You're burning and inhaling that. Being brainwashed is worse than the resources being taken out of Africa. People better know that. You know, people think it's the big elephant in the room. The brainwashing is worse because let me tell you something. They can take things from you only because your mind is not yours. Once your mind is twisted and manipulated, you don't pay attention to what you should. So it's easy for them. So I'm a psychologist. I can tell you, this is one way you can get people off their, what was the word I'm trying to use? Their game, if you will. Just twist their minds, convince that they are less than or they can't do. You've got them. You know, you can tell them the sofa in their living room and they think they just bought something new because they're not in control. Let me go to Dibias Chiodozie. Ndewo. We can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Mute yourself.
So mute.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna send him a note. So,
okay.
Dr. Monet, can you send him a note in the?
Sure.
Yeah, see, he's having a little difficulty there. Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much. You know, but the point being that when we talk about poverty, you know, we must realize what's causing our poverty. What's causing our I mean, think about it. If Africa has all these things, if we have all these resources, what's going on? Because we're not in control of it. You can't be in control when your mind doesn't belong to you. I said to you earlier, what happened to South Africans? They didn't go for the big jobs. They didn't go for the big jobs. They went for the little jobs. Akachi, you were going to say something?
Yes, you made me think of something. One of my courses that I had taken on economic development and, you know, feeding the world agricultural production. It was interesting that just the continent of Africa alone at that time, because of course there's industrialized farming, so that changes how you're able to produce agriculture. But at that time, what I had learned is that there was enough arable land literally to feed the world just on that one continent. And I remember, that class like was very emotional for me. It's supposed to be economics, but it was emotional for me because I was realizing how these systems and institutions were set in place that create hunger.
Yes.
Create hunger, create homelessness, create poverty, and it doesn't have to be. And so, just adding to your point, there's enough food that like no one should be hungry on the continent, and no one should be hungry in the world.
And again, as I indicated earlier, redefining poverty. We need to redefine it. Not because somebody doesn't have fancy shoes, not because they have tattered clothing. If they can eat, they're not poor. Do you understand? You have to eat to survive for you to acquire all those, nobody buries you with all the worldly things. Yeah, now we've gotten all used to it and we want all of that. But when it comes to being able to feed yourself, that's where you draw the line on poverty. If you can do that, then you're not poor.
And that's power.
Months upon, wealth. If you have a fancy house, those are all months. Those are additional blessings. The key blessing is the ability to feed yourself and feed your family. There is a place in Nigeria that is receding. In other words, the people who live by the river, they've convinced our leaders that those people are a problem. So they need to go back into the hinterlands, push them back so that we can have new hotels. We can have all of that. So the people who depend on fishing, they depend on fishing. You've pushed them away from their livelihood. You think they're poor. They're an eyesore, but that's how they live. That's how they survive. Dibia, can we hear from you now? Dibia. I don't know what's in.
Wow.
We can hear you. Okay, if you're hearing me, maybe you need to go out and come back in. I'm going to remove him from stream for the moment, and then he can come right back in. I think he's having difficulty, and here's the thing, where he's at, it's the network. And he's in Lagos, so the network is always a challenge. So we can appreciate that, So hopefully he'll join us shortly. Yes. But as long as we don't see, and when I started this program, I was talking about what Chineke wants for us. There's not one of us created to suffer. What's the point if we believe that Chineke is love and why bring us here to suffer? But you have everything you need to survive. There's a story that we tell children. There's a story that teaches children how to behave, how not to be greedy. And long story short, when a good child was getting ready to go home, all the spirits came together and started asking each other, "What do you have to share? This good child is going home. Bring whatever you have." And all the spirits brought all the goodies for this child to take with her home. It's a long story, so I'm not going to go into all of that. But the point I'm trying to make is every one of us have something to contribute to the whole. There shouldn't be poverty. There shouldn't be poverty. Back then, and I find I'm so grateful that in my village, they're trying to do that again. When the farmer would tie yams and corn and vegetables on a fence so that the person who doesn't have a farm or maybe too sick to farm, they have something. You don't even have to ask for permission. Once you go and you see that, there's food for you to eat. So there's no poverty. They say, "Akum dero bani." My wealth lies in my community. If my people are poor, I'm poor. But guess what happened when religion came into play? You know what they saw those things as? Take a wild guess. That's voodoo.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, they're tying yams and corn and all that on the fence. Oh, get rid of it.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, the most powerful tool in the hands of an oppressor is the mind of the oppressor. And it's worse when the oppressed don't know they're oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
The food, our practice of helping our people, of feeding our people, is now voodoo.
Mm.
They will see it and they'll go snatch it and keep people poor. Whereas
That's
the village
crazy.
eat, and particularly the elders. Do you understand what I'm saying? The elders whose families are not there, they know to take their little walking stick and just walk up there and get some food. These elders, how you think they were surviving? The community took care of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing like, oh, no. If you have enough, you shared it.
Yes.
You put it up there, and you find the elders will just go to those little farms, and then they take this, they put it in their bag, and they take home and they eat. Now, the religionists have stepped in. Oh my God. Sacrilege. Who knows what that yam is there for? Huh? What evil is that going to bring? How about that corn? What's that corn? What's behind that corn? They take all of that out. And they cause poverty. So now, when you're brainwashed, you can no longer think for yourself. You can't solve problems. Dibia, we're coming back to you and see if you can work now. Dibia Chedozie, can you hear me?
Wow.
Man.
Yeah,
No.
we can't hear you.
Wow.
Yeah. So, well, you can enjoy the program with us. Okay. You see, that's what I'm saying. Why do you think? I guess it has an obvious answer. Why do you think that we are so passionate about removing anything that remotely resembles African way of doing things? Why, Dr. Monet? Why?
I think it's self-hate. It has to do with our self-esteem. We have been taught from generation to generation to hate ourselves and everything African. Everything African has been so-called, what they say is demonized. Or like the video that we watched, is satanic. All of these negative, all the negativity behind, and we have bought into it as African people. That's the problem. We have totally bought into it. And unfortunately, because Africans that settled here in America, that were a part of the transatlantic slave trade and of the diaspora, a lot of us has only been exposed to the European way. And what Europeans say is what is the truth. And just like you said, everyone talking about voodoo, this is evil. You're sitting out vegetables for the poor. When we're doing something for our community, why is it wrong? If it's black, it's wrong. You can't say, just like here in Dearborn, I live in Dearborn, and the Arabic population has a Arabic social services that mission says to help our Arabic people. That's what the mission says. This is here to help Arabic people. They are huge organization, multiple buildings, and they are helping their people. They also, they'll help you, but the mission is to help their people. But if we opened up a black or an African social services, do you know how many problems we would have? Why are you calling it black? Why are you calling it African? Why can't we help all of people? All people need help, but it's our people that are suffering the most. But we can't say, oh, we'll have an African or a black social services. We were talking about establishing an African town here in Detroit. Has that happened? No. 80% black, almost 80% black in Detroit. But we can't have an African town. But there's a Bangladesh town that they gave millions of dollars to help establish. But when it comes to Black, when it comes to African, there is an issue. And because of that societal, all the systematic, I call weaponry against Black and African culture has caused even us to fight against ourselves.
Yes.
To the point that to our own detriment. We should not. We've lost, like Akachi was saying, we have lost the knowledge of our ancestors. I know my great grandmother, you know, it's just a blessing that my ancestors had longevity, because I had the pleasure of being able to have a relationship with my great grandmother, in a very close relationship. Mm-hmm. She always had a garden. She had a garden, 80 years old. She would go out in that garden during the summertime, and she would, by hand, get that garden together. She always had her own food. She didn't buy canned food. She canned her own fruits and vegetables. You know, that they had in the wintertime. Right. They knew how to survive. My grandfather from the South, they went to the field and hunted squirrels and raccoons and turtles. They had turtles, they had crawfish, they had all of these animals that we ate. And when I went over there in the summers, you know, I would go over there, and what did we eat? I had every type of wild game there is. Rabbit, squirrels, possums, and even like Auntie, like Your Excellency was saying, even they were talking about muskrat. Yeah. And you know, I was a greedy child, but when my grandmother said muskrat, I said, I don't know. I might have to draw the line on that one. But
when you took a chance, it tasted good, didn't it?
From the land.
When you took a chance, it tasted good, didn't it? I'll take this. This is a little bit. When I went to when I was at the University of North Alabama, I went with this family, and they were eating chitlins, right? And then the smell was overwhelming, and I'm trying to keep a smile on my face, and in my mind I'm saying, "Are they serious? They eating hot, guys? Oh, I have a story to tell. I couldn't wait to get home and tell my parents, you have no idea what they eat here. They eat they eat frogs," and I was like, "Oh my God!" I think I'm not sure I'm in America, because in my mind, you know, you guys are just you've got it all made, right? Hog intestines and all. But let me tell you, after a while, I got so used to that stuff. I know. I can say that. Yes. So after a while, I started eating it, and I loved it. I mean, it was nice, you know. When it's seasoned properly, you know, you never know what you'll fall in love with. Anyway, that was somebody here said this is a Kukuna Child's Christianity made our people to see everything about Africa as finished stuff, and it has eaten deep into the mind of our people. Very unfortunate. Yes, it's still killing us today. Mm-hmm. That's why our people are not able to solve anything. Yes, I've got to share this with you. I had a young person. I'm a part of this organization, right? And they have a YouTube, WhatsApp page. So I'm in that page, and I saw a pastor was so angry that this was in Nigeria. A pastor was angry that the Muslims do not want a Christian president. So they're arguing over, well, if the Muslims don't want a Christian president, how dare they? How dare they? Because everything that's going on in Nigeria is Christians who are doing it. How dare they? So they're fighting over who's going to rule Nigeria, not from the perspective of who's best, but from what religion. And the religion has nothing to do with you and I.
No.
We are fighting over religion that was introduced to us and used to kill us. Mm-hmm. And let's be reminded, because sometimes we do forget, you know, and I want to hear it. When the Europeans started their expansion into Africa, you know, we see them completely convert to indigenous traditional religion, Christianity and Islam. We have literally have no respect for traditional African religions. None. There is no African right now. Go online and see if you can. That's based on our spiritual way, on that tradition, except like a place like Igbo, we have voodoo. Okay, the rest of them are all focused on Eurocentric system of doing things. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? All right. So has it transformed us for the better? No, because when people tell you how to think, you're not transformed for the better, because the objective is not to transform you for the better. It's to keep you thinking, fight each other, being it's greed. Oh God, I don't know. There's so many words of negative things that it brings to us, and it festers today. Nothing has changed. Religion is the spark for all the disputes throughout the world, but Africa in particular, the conflicts are ridiculous. You know, we fight over you have ethnicity and race and religion, you know, but the worst part of it is religion. It's the elephant in the room. About it because we're so afraid. We're so afraid to talk about it. Most Christians don't want to talk about what effect Christianity has had in Africa because they're afraid of going to hell. And a lot of Muslims don't want to talk about it either because of whatever their motives are when they get to wherever it is they're going. I mean, people really. To go to any African nation right now, we, the African people, our spirituality, our way of life is second, is third rate. They laugh at you. They laugh at you for having the audacity to say anything positive about your own spirituality. They don't even want to hear that. The conflict, the religious conflict in Africa is so bad. So bad that they even those who brought us that threat is reminded us that it could cause genocide. It's at genocidal proportions. We are so ingrained in all these foreign religions that we're willing to kill each other. We're willing to take each other out. The religious discord in Africa is taking hold so deep. You don't even know where to start. If you hate me because I'm not a Christian, like they were fighting in that form. If you hate somebody because they're not a Christian, you're going to hate somebody because they're not Muslim. You're going to hate somebody because they're traditionalists. It's time for us as African people to rethink where we are. We are heading in the wrong direction, my people. We are. It's not getting any better. I'll tell you that. Because there is no African nation that's standing on the principles of their spirituality. None. Go look it up. If you think I'm not telling you the truth, go look it up. Christianity, Islam. Look, if they were using it to do good, it's one thing. I believe that in the fundamentals of every religion is supposed to be good, but that's not what it's used for. I want to read something that UD has advised us that he's on the road listening. Says, one love to you all. So thank you, UD. We get it. We know that you're watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you're having fun though. Or you're on your way now. You're on your way back now. So, and Ukuna Charles says something. Ukuna says that anything about belief system is transferable. For instance, we hardly forget what we see our parents do. So it keeps going round the circle. That's right. If this is what our parents are doing, If our parents are preaching this thing, that's what we're going to do. Akachi, your thoughts?
You know, this conversation reminds me of a discussion that was had on the weekend, on the day of Nigerian Independence Day at the said institute here in Houston. And the topic was the role of the African diaspora in relation to the continent and vice versa. And I wish I were a panelist, but I wasn't. But I spoke on behalf of our ancestors for sure. And what I realized, it was kind of like I was talking to a brick wall in many ways. I was definitely in the minority in terms of thought, because most of what everyone was focused on in terms of building was material things. And it didn't matter that I was sharing, it seemed. You know, I think they heard it. I think some people got it, but first it was like I was being termed as the person who was anti-money or banking or financial systems. I'm like, we created commerce. Africans created commerce. That's not what I'm saying.
Say it again.
Okay?
That's right.
Stop. Stop. That's not what I was saying. But then the other part of it is that I was saying that our culture rooted us in everything that we did. And if we're simply going to replicate the West, well, then you can forget, you know, your children living, you know, in perpetuity into generations, because we're destroying the planet. I was like, what's the point? You know, you can't eat money. You can't drink money. You can't breathe money. And it was like, you know, one guy said, cash rules everything around me. Shout out to the Wu-Tang. And I like that song. But I was like, no, that was our brothers. That song was not them being rooted in their culture. That was them feeling like, this is how I got to survive in America. So hence cash rules everything around me. And so when, you know, that statement was made and people clapped, and I was like, do you not see what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi? Like, I feel like the self-hatred is part of the issue, but I also feel like, you know, I hate to say it, but these things here, you know, this technology in my hand, we're willing to give up who we are so that we can have these things, because we think these things have become God to us, I feel like, in a sense. You know, your car can do all of these fancy things. It can self-park now, you know. You can walk into your house, Alexa, turn on this, or like
that's me right here.
right, you know. And so yes, I love the fact that I can instantaneously find any song, almost literally any song ever. I can pull it up and I can listen to it. But is that worth me? Is that worth the materials used to build this phone, the exploitation, the mining of the resources that's destabilizing the topography? Is it worth the toxins that are seeping into everything and that's making us sick? You know, diseases and cancer that we never had. Is this worth that? Like, do we have to maybe spend a couple more generations to figure out how to make this, but it's sustainable? You know, it's not going to harm the environment. You know, 7 generations beyond, we're not hurting anything. And I feel like when I was in that room, you know, one sister cried because she was from Angola, and she was like, our culture is literally dying. And I think some people felt it, but it was just all about money. It was just all about the advancement, and the advancement was to have this stuff. And so I don't even think it's all self-hatred. I think it's like we're idling. We're idolizing this stuff.
Yeah. We're idolizing not what we have, but what other people bring in. And when we don't have it, we fight to do whatever it takes to get it. I want to read something Dibias UD wrote. I think we should share that. He says a lack of a unifying culture, religion in our global African communities is the reason why it is near impossible to get a consensus leading to an African town, etc. Not to mention how easy it is to pit Africans against each other doing the bidding of the West and their foreign religious masters. In the end, we help the enemy eliminate those who seek our opulence on the world stage in religion, economics, etc., etc. That's true. That's true. You know what? I'm part of a panel this afternoon. This evening at 6 p.m. And there's a movie that we are going to be analyzing, which deals with the apocalypse Africa, which deals with what has happened to African leadership. You know, who try to build us up. What has happened? But one of the things that is important for us to understand, you know, don't talk about what other people are doing when you do it yourself.
Yes.
You can't. There's no winning when you contribute to it. You contribute to your own demise. That's what I mean by when you're brainwashed. Can you imagine there are women who are given white sperm by their husbands so they can have mixed race children? If it comes naturally due to love or whatever, that's one thing. But to actually spend hundreds of dollars for some European to come from Africa and impregnate your wife, they do that in Ghana. Wow. Go read it up. I'm not saying anything like that. Go read it up. The brainwashing is real, y'all. Can it be fixed? Chair Dozier, I'm trying desperately to get you into this.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Yes.
I have to change my computer.
Oh, okay, excellent.
And if it are those we are talking about, the born again Christians say the devil is a liar. I moved from office home. I have to change computer again. Anyway, I enjoy you. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Initially, I said I didn't want to disturb the thrill because you people are just wonderful. They are wonderful. I wanted to do the listening today, but since I have to make my point known, let me make my voice heard. I think Dibias Udemezue has hit the nail on the head. All you've said so far, we can keep talking and talking and we will never finish it. But I think he's like he read my mind. And that's why no matter what anybody says, I love this family.
Yes.
And that you have kept this fight on. But we must do more than the fight and do a coordination east side, because from all we've been saying so far, the problem is more with us than those tormenting us.
That's right. Thank you.
So the problem is more with us. And then we have to be exemplary. And we are already doing that anyway. There's nobody here that it's on the screen that is not living an exemplary life. Up through here, before I got to this stage, I know what persecution I passed through. Like the other time I told you what the persecution started right from in my own domain. I was put in the quadrangle and told I was disgracing the family. I was not able to be trained, but I was dogged. And even when I started here, I was looked at someone who was doing fetish thing. I'm moving with fetish people. I'm going to the dustbin, necromancy, to dig up dead past. What am I doing with those who are dead? You know, that society has migrated beyond that. Why am I going back to the obsolete way of life, the archaic way of life? Not until I began to dig up something profound. And then the way of acknowledging me is to start talking about what I'm saying in a different way. I said, bravo, insofar as you can do that. And then some people had even gone to the extent of now saying they now pray through their ancestors. I said, bravo, at least I'm winning. But I know that when you do, we have it here in the University of Lagos, we have a function, and you ask, you have done the Christian prayer, you have done the Muslim prayer. What about the traditional prayer? They say, oh, that is not official. But when you are caught up in danger and you need to go and meet your ancestors to rescue you. You go in the night. Why in the night? Why not do it in the daytime? Why are you ashamed of your own culture, who you are in the daytime? So the problem is more with us.
Yes.
And the only way we can do this is that we have to move beyond the individual life. So that's why I'm very happy for the family, and I'm happy like as the one in Dibias said the other time, okay, Dibias said the other time, there are some groups in Atlanta, and I think it's happening all over the world, who are thinking of buying land and start living in communities. We need to do that. But we don't just have to live in communities without the African spirituality in tandem with contemporary reality. Because the thing we are lacking now is that everybody have left off behind. Everybody, if you look at the Indian, the Chinese, the Asians, they have built their culture, they are into the space, they are controlling the cyberspace, they are competing with the Western world, even threatening to overtake them. We are even yet to coordinate ourselves, not to talk about starting. So we have to build our culture to be enviable, because that is the only way we can sustain this fight. But if we keep trying to live, okay, look at, for instance, what has happened in Dubai. It's leadership. We don't have that. Those of us who are talking, we have all the idea, but we're not giving the platform. So, and the people are too caught up in the web that they don't even have the time to think about themselves. All they think about is Arsenal all the time, what is happening abroad. They want to tag along. They are satisfied with the finished goods. And if you are talking about euro, like they are about something you're talking about, they're about goods. What spoil is Aba made? As soon as you bring it Aba made, even when it's not made in Aba, if it is bad, it's Aba. And so they talk down on it. For instance, Innocent produced cars. When I went to visit Innocent, I didn't see him use his car. I didn't see any of his managers, any of his workers use his car. And I asked, where is branding? Where is branding?
What?
When you are using, he said, use way Innocent. Rolls Royce na limousine. So he's not proud of his own products. I was looking up to Innocent, riding in his own car, building his own limousine, his own Rolls Royce, drive it, his managers, branding. So we are not even proud of what we produce. And that's why fella ask, if we don't buy Africa, we don't sell Africa, who go buy, who go sell? Now us go sell ourselves now. Just like, okay, Dibias the one said the other time, when we're talking about Chiism University, he said, who will accredit us, if not us?
Yes.
Best university is that you have to sell your mother's market. If you don't sell your mother's market, your father's market, and sell it with all your pride and dignity, nobody does that for you.
Yes.
So, it's something that we keep talking, and that's why I say no matter what we do, and there are a lot of distractions. Like me now, to meet up with a lot of things, I have to go into things that I know will slow me down. That I need to train children. So these are part of the distractions. But other people just fit into their own culture and just keep doing it. There's already a market, so it's going to be difficult, but we have to create it. We don't have a choice. It's a duty.
And my people, listen. If you don't know it, there's ethnic cleansing going on.
Yes.
By using us to kill each other.
Yes.
Then we open ourselves for them to take over. And Dibias, you said it, and you just said it as well. It is us killing. You can't talk about what I said it earlier. You don't talk about what people are doing to you when you're doing it to yourself. You are the avenue they're using. We're killing each other and opening the door for somebody else to come in. They don't even have to do it anymore. We have to do it ourselves. We're doing it ourselves. That's the Arabs. That's the Christian. Yeah, and they get offended. They get offended. Look, it's called survival. We're not talking about the individual. We're talking about some of the principles from your religion that is being used to devastate Africa. We're not talking about the individual good people, because those exist. They're good Muslims. They're good Christians. Yes. But it is the religion itself that's being used by bad people to devastate Africa. And we have the right to speak on it. And when you can't speak on it because you're afraid, it continues. You know what worries me the most? I'm going to be honest with you. One of these days, I'm going to leave this earth. What worries me is not the new car that I'll drive or the new house I'll buy. What worries me is, what am I leaving behind? What kind of world are my grandchildren going to inherit? Because one day I'm going to be gone. What kind of world are my children going to inherit? What role did we play? Perhaps if people were thinking about the generations to come and not just their own pocketbook. I read that Dibias showed Dozie. I was watching a video where one of the vice president of Nigeria was talking about the billions of dollars, not naira. So if you want to talk about poverty in Nigeria, billions of dollars taken out of the banks by 3 people. People own, is it 300 and something billion? I mean, $37 billion. What is $37 billion in naira?
That's almost 370 billion naira.
This is what 3 people have. So, and yet they are surrounded by poverty. How much money do your children and grandchildren need?
Yes.
And what are you, because they don't stay in Nigeria, or because they don't stay in Africa, because they go out, abroad. It doesn't matter to them what condition the African people are in, because their descendants may not live there. So we just take what we can and make sure that they live lavishly wherever it is we're sending them. But those of us who know that it is important, this is not hating the world. It's the global world. And I say it all the time. It's a global world. We have to coexist. We must coexist with white people, with Arabs, with everybody. However, we should not be the sacrificial lamb.
No.
We should not be the ones that are open ourselves to be taken out, to be cleansed out while everybody else is surviving. Whatever method is being used to do this, we need to have our own minds to say, okay, what are you talking about? What is this about? What is the reason behind what you're doing? We don't even ask. I'm going to ask Dr. Monet to say something in a minute. In my village, the young people, thank God for young people. I'm telling you, they were trying to remove the Dibias, Ebelakot, all those traditional things that we do, that my children had access to, that I, as a child, I enjoyed as a young woman, as a kid. All the traditions, they were getting rid of all of that. They were getting rid of all the. Matter of fact, they have a court case right now. My village has a court case to remove the tradition. They went to court to demand that the Abala should be removed. We shouldn't have that anymore because it causes conflict. Yes, they're in court. What my father fought for, you have these religionists fighting the village, demanding that all those things should be removed because Jesus doesn't want that. But the traditionalists are saying, no. But here's where the young people come in. The young people are like, oh no, they have gone back and they're bringing back all the culture. They are bringing it all back because guess what they found? What's going on is not working. It's not working. So they're bringing it, all the masquerades, even what they call Ipwabala. That means rites of passage. They bring in all that back. You see pictures of all these little boys, going through the rites of passage and all that. It's the young people doing it. Thank you, Chineke, for that.
Yes.
What's his name wrote something here, and then I'll have you, Akachi, say what you want to say. This is what Ukuna Chao said. He wants to thank. He says, 20 years ago, I remember my cousin discouraging me from going to watch masquerades that is a fetish. But I didn't see anything fetish about it. I stayed with it. And he says, I want to take this opportunity to thank Global Faith Ministries of Chiism for opening my eyes to know the truth about my African spirituality, the way our elders presented it to us in the past. But what they're presenting right now is very scary. He is right. And I'm so glad that we're doing what we're doing today, that we're getting ready to start the university where they can actually really learn African.
Yes.
African
Yes.
because it doesn't diminish them. Because if Chineke didn't want us to be who we are, then there's no reason for all these cultures that we've been blessed with. Everybody else is celebrating out theirs. We have a right to celebrate. We need to recondition our minds. Akachi, go ahead.
Well, I had a question to the Dibias, to you all. Because, you know, being in that room, which I'm going to stand up. That's just who I am.
Yes.
But I probably was like one of 2 people out of 30-something people, maybe 30 people, that was traditionalist. And it was comprised of mostly first or second generation African immigrants. And there were some people who were born here as well. But like, it was like nothing. And I spoke twice at length. Like, it was like this America has made people believe that this is it. Like, our culture doesn't matter, you know, because this is the prize. Like, America is the prize. So no, there is not really any value in the culture. And I guess I just wonder, like, what would you say to them? Because I mean, like, mega churches are being built here from continental to obviously Africans right here in America, like out the wazoo here in Houston. I mean, they're putting on mega concerts. I had to like unfollow people on my Facebook that I've networked with because it's all this stuff, all this Jesus talk, all these speeches. Like, they don't want anything to do with the culture. Everything is Western. And these were young people.
That's brainwashing. That's the brainwashing. And unfortunately, it's the parents. You see, this is where, when you say that the elders have failed us, they have. Because these young people are threatened to be disowned by family members if they have the audacity to want to leave the fold, to want to think on their own. I know some individuals who have contacted me about wanting to leave, but they're afraid of what their parents will say. Because, you know, we have this extended family thing, and they're all Christian or Muslim or whatever. And how dare you? They'll disown you. So a lot of them know better, but they're afraid. But I tell you, Akachi, when you find yourself in a situation where people are believing what they want to believe, right? If you know what's right, speak up. Speak up. You don't have to go along to belong. If the situation presents itself that you need to speak up, do so. Because these are lost souls. They're doing nothing for the African people. Invite them to come to a program that we're hosting. But I think that we do a disservice by not saying anything. I had a woman, and I don't want to call her name because, you know, she says, we need people like you. She's white. She says, we don't hear the African perspective.
Yes.
We see more people trying to belong. But we need that. She said, we desperately need the African perspective. We don't get that. That's what you represent.
Yes.
We need you to keep speaking. Come speak to us. We need to, because they understand that somehow our people are diminished. They know it. There are many, many articles talking about hundreds of thousands of African people losing their lives over religion. These are Europeans reporting what's going on. In other words, have we gone too far? I think we've gone too far, they're saying. Because now these people are, let's be honest, they are good people in every race. Be honest about that. There are many people who marched who helped fight apartheid. They weren't all black. They were white people who fought to eliminate apartheid. There were white people who fought for civil rights. Even they right now are saying this is going too far. You have a perspective, share it. But what you're saying, Akachi, is true. You look at this right here in Georgia on Centerville Highway. Oh my God, we have a big church by a Nigerian pastor. Big church. With the cross of the steeple as high as the sun, the sky. What are they teaching in there? So I snuck in there one time, just, I just want to see what it is. I would just bow in and say, Same thing. There was nothing. That's a Nigerian pastor. There was nothing remotely African. And the place is jam-packed with Africans, praising, stomping, jumping up and down and doing all that stuff, speaking in tongues and everything. I said, why are you speaking in tongues? Don't you speak in the African language? What's the purpose of the tongue? What are they asking? They phone up, all the Buddha, and they find each other. They see who can outspeak the Amstel. I say, is this real? Chineke, are you here anywhere? They are trying to fight each other who can outspeak each other with the tongue. I said, these are Igbo people. What are they Igbo? They who do that. You don't need that speaking tongue. You already speak your own language. Halfway through this stuff, I couldn't take anymore. It's like Chineke just pulled me by the neck and said, okay, that's enough. He's like, I walked out of there. I was so sad. And I stood outside and I looked back at this beautiful structure. Honoring whom? Who's that honoring? There was nothing. Oh, they were all dressed in the African attire. Let's understand that. We got to be all African. All the biggest, we got to look behind all the big onini gogoro. Everybody's like, oh, they were all nothing African. They wouldn't even speak the language. The pastor speaking in tongue. Speak to them in the language. Waiting. Chedozie, go ahead. Dibias, Chedozie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that so sometimes calamity is the best teacher. Like they say in the Igbo language,
yes.
Meaning that the body listens better than the ear.
Yeah.
And the way that the European or the white people put it is, he who feels it or she who feels it knows the pinch. So I remember some 10 years ago, I asked them in my area, my place there in Akawanato, Umunochi, Sukwato. This female deity that you are denigrating during the Civil War in the Umunochi community, the Civil War took all the surrounding community, but the Nigerian soldiers for over 1 year going to 18 months tried to enter into my village. They couldn't. They tried all they could by air, by land. They couldn't. The deity protected us. In fact, all those who went to the deity and told her, Mommy, we are going to war, and just touched the effigy there or took sand, they went and came back. My mom is the one who told me this story. And then he said there was a particular man, bullet went through his heart and went through the back. That man came back from war, lived 10 years before he died. Wow. After the Civil War. Several stories. There was even a man from Isochi whose he and his family had been scattered. So what he did was to go, because those who went to war wore on that particular deity a soldier cap. So he went and said, Ajala, I'm from Isochi. I'm not from Akawa. I'm not even from Unato to talk about coming from Akawa. But you know, my family is scattered. And if you want to kill me now. I'm wearing your cap because I believe you protect me. I'm going to look for my family. If I gather my family and come back, then I will give you a goat. Then he went and came back the following week with his family and his load, everything intact. Then, of course, he fulfilled his promise. Then suddenly, my people had forgotten, because we are always after the material things. We want to fly and ride good cars. We want the vast matters of the material world. Now we have forgotten about what this deity did for us, and we are now singing "Only Jesus Can Save." And I asked them, in case war comes in the future, how do we protect ourselves? He said, "Oh, Jesus would do." I said, "But mind you, Jesus was a pacifist. He didn't fight war, which is why the Jews said, you cannot protect us. We cannot turn the left cheek when somebody slaps us on the right. So we cannot accept that Jesus." And so the Jews rejected him. The Arabs rejected him on pacifism. And you are accepting him. They say, "Oh, that's okay. Who will protect you?" The chips are down. And apart from that, I asked them, our forefathers who did what you call the institution of Arose, which means Arugala, meaning taboos about abominations must be abolished. And so they established like a panpsychic motto for monitoring what human beings do in the secret that they presume others don't see. And that panpsychic motto has a way of monitoring things, even when you have done the most heinous things under the dark and thought nobody saw you. It will bring you to the open. You confess openly. So, because those are the checks and balances. Now, children from the same home betray themselves, they kill themselves for material things, and Jesus cannot do anything about that. And so people are realizing it now. The youths are realizing it. In my place, the same thing is happening. I remember saying 5 years ago when I muted the idea we should wake up all the traditional institutions. It was like a revolt. This man is talking junk. Today, they are the one calling me and asking me, Prof, that thing you said, that it is time. In fact, they are asking for money to be contributed now, because there in my place, people are going to kidnapping with the invaders that are coming. They are kidnapping, and brothers keep no trust. And so they now need the checks and balances. They now see why our forefathers did what they did and why they put those institutions. So they don't have a choice. But again, the point that we are making is that we have to seize on this moment. Unfortunately, we do need more than talk, but we are moving about it gradually, which is okay. And so we keep talking, we keep walking, and then as we keep talking, we should not think that our talk doesn't register. Our talk registers. It registers.
Yes.
Because I've seen places I've gone into heated debate. Sometimes you can't call it argument because we are talking and they're not. So I'm stubborn, they're stubborn. I talk only for some days later, some weeks later. They say, bros, that thing you said the other time will come and educate me more. Because they thought I will step down, I will back down, but I am resilient. I'm talking. And then they talk about witches and wizards killing people, and I ask them, how many people do witches and wizards, assumably, if there are witches and wizards, how many have they killed compared to the heinous crime being committed in the name of Jesus by the church?
Yes.
So that I open up what the church is doing, what the mosque is doing, killing people.
Yes.
You know? And so they say, but you have to compromise. So once you compromise 1 inch of your culture, you have lost it.
Yes. You know what?
You don't have to allow an outsider to tell you to change your culture. You change your culture because you want to modify it. But the spirituality does not change. The hardcore, it doesn't change. What we change around it is the way we dress. We can decide to use our kwete, our local cloth, to sew suit. It's still our local cloth.
Mm-hmm.
We can adapt the foreign one to improve our own. Those are paraphernalias, but the hardcore must not change. But
Mm-hmm.
what Christianity and Islam are going for is the jugular. They want to
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
display hardcore, and
Mm-hmm.
that is where the problem lies.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, those in the village don't have a choice but to go back, and especially the youth, because they have seen that the so-called elders are confused. That's the
Yes.
truth of the matter. Most of them don't know their right from their left. They are confused.
Yes.
And they think that they are giving you wisdom. They even shove it down your neck. And then at the time, I had to tell them, you sent me to school. I did a PhD. I have seen the inside out of what you are telling me. And I've seen that it cannot lead us anywhere. And I've also seen that most of what you are doing in 1 million years cannot take us one step forward. So I'm giving you the antidote, and you are telling me to keep quiet. You have to listen to me because, in summary, onye meaning traveling is part of education. And if you've traveled and you get exposed, you are wiser than someone who is at home,
That's
who may
right.
be gray haired, but
Yes.
has not studied much.
You say. That's
There we
right.
go.
Yes.
So, well,
You say,
um,
Mm.
I'm going to give Akachi and Dr. Monet, and now you got 2 minutes each to add any extra thoughts you may have that you think the audience need to be aware of.
I'll say, first of all, we have to understand that a lot of our condition is due to the fact that we have gone away from our traditional practices. We have stopped serving the God of our ancestors. We have stopped serving Chineke. And we have been experiencing persecution because of that. We will never get wealth. We will never gain prosperity. We will never grow if we do not get back what many of our ancestors have lost. It
Mhm.
is our it is our job now, and Chineke has been really dealing with me of being more transparent in who I am, in my African identity, and my spirituality, and being able to be proud of saying that I serve the God of my ancestors. And so we need to get back to that. We need to start where we are, and we need to take the first steps of regaining who we really are,
Mhm.
and regaining and honoring our ancestors, because it is so important.
That's right. We say
you
thank
say,
you. Thank you so much. Akachi.
um, 2 minutes, right? Okay. You know, I think what Dibia Chiadozi, thank you. What you said just reminded me that I know people were listening. I know some people heard me because they did come and talk to me after,
Mhm.
that discussion. So it's I'm kind of used to it, but I would just say to the listeners, just be comfortable with being uncomfortable and being perhaps maybe one of the few who are standing on your square,
Mhm.
and that you're not. I knew I had to speak for the ancestors, but you're not speaking for no reason, because there are people that, maybe it may be weeks. I may never hear back from them. It may be months or years, but maybe something I said did stick with them, and so that's important. And also that I think the going through the fire, the purging of the impurities, I guess, the persecution. I can't say that I experienced necessarily any harsh persecution, but definitely kind of been the outsider on the fringes, and the different one, and being afraid a little bit of how my friends, my family, yeah, how they would respond because I'm not Christian any longer. And, what does that mean for relationships? And some relationships, ended, and some new ones came about. So it's all a journey, and that, it's it's beautiful in the long run. So just go ahead and walk it. Walk it anyway.
Yes.
Walk your actually very true. I thank all of you for your contribution, and it's so important that us as Chiis understand that our role is, yes, to talk about it. We can build things as we're doing, but speaking is important because, quite frankly, that is what they do every day in church. When you go to church, that's what they're doing. They're talking. They're talking, and people are taking the talk home. Some of them buy into it, some of them don't. But the important thing is that the pastors, that's what they do. There's power in talking. There's power in speaking. For the longest, many people didn't hear anything about African spirituality. And many people didn't want to talk about the brainwashing because they're afraid. They're afraid of the ramifications of speaking and who's going to come after them and all that kind of stuff. But you know, you're dead and buried if you can't speak. The dead don't speak, the living do. As long as you have breath, you have a responsibility to speak the truth. It may hurt. It may make people not like you. You may lose a few friends and gain one good one. All through my life, I've found out that what's exciting for me is not all the people that hang around me. It's just that one or two that understand that the truth is important. I don't want friends that just believe in foolishness. I don't have time for that because you bring nothing to the table. There's nothing you have to say to me. I don't want to have foolish conversations. It doesn't mean you have to be you have to be a Chiist. You can be any religion and have conversation with me, but don't come up with foolishness. And if I find that that person just talks about fantasy, then I'm done. I have to tell my truth, and so do you.
Yes.
Even if it costs you so-called friends, so be it. Your best friend is you. Because right where you are, Chineke is. So you and your best friend, you're walking to them. I'm fine, honey. I got my friend with me, the Most High. I walk in boldness.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter to me, quite frankly, what people think about me. Because I know who I am, and I thank my parents every single day for allowing me the opportunity to see me as I am. See yourself as who you are. The word is a Serengeti, survival of the fittest. White supremacy, Arab supremacy, or whomsoever is trying to be supreme over you, it's a phenomenon. Yes, it's complex, very complex. But it was created to make the European efforts to colonize and conquer the world resources seem like a natural process. Mm-hmm. Because if they are superior, then of course they've got the right to dominate over you.
Yes.
That's what all that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't see what they're doing wrong because they believe it's been ingrained in them. It's been told through their schools. When you tell when we send our children to school, what do they read? When they say they're doing a history, please pick up the history book and see what your child is reading. There's nothing about him there. Oh yes, they'll be tested. They'll have to be able to regurgitate European history. And they make an A. And they bring and they run home. Guess what, Mom, Dad? I made an A in history. Aren't you so proud of him? But you don't take the time to find out what history. His story. Not his story. Nothing about him. I've seen the history books that our children, the only thing black that they read about is slavery or civil rights movement, which is all significant. But what about all the other things that they should know about? Chauncey De Vega, if you guys don't mind writing that down, I recommend that you read 10 things everyone should know about white supremacy. That's a good book. Read about it. And I'm not saying to hate white people. That's not the point. I'm just telling you why many of us feel they're superior. They've done a good number, and we believe it. That keeps us brainwashed and poor. The objective is not to better us by learning their history and their history alone. And in this country, they are fighting desperately to make sure that our children don't know their history. And yet we're sending them to those schools. We're sending them to those churches. And you wonder, you get mad. What's going on? Why do they treat us bad? Because they've convinced you that you deserve to be treated badly. Because you celebrate everything about them, nothing about you. The strangers on our, and I'm talking about Africa, the strangers on our land, they control everything. Do you think Africans control anything? No, we don't. They control the land, the labor, the gold, oil, gas, diamonds, everything. They control this land here in America that belongs to the Native Americans. They start wars. They start anything that will keep us distracted. They give us weaponry to fight each other. They spread diseases. They kill us and show us how to kill each other. And then they gain control completely, and then they establish chiefs that will do their bidding. And we don't seem to understand that this cannot continue. Akachis, you said something, and this needs to be reiterated. Majority of the people that you met are Christian. They didn't become Christian on their own. Their parents made them that.
Yes.
They are what they are because of what we put in them. Okro anigaka onye Koreani. That's an Igbo proverb. The okra tree will never grow taller than the farmer who planted it. It would always, the farmer can bend it down to its will. We are exactly what our parents have created. So you have to ask yourself as a parent, what have you done? What are you doing? What are you teaching? What are you teaching your children? Because one day you're not going to be here. And whatever you've made them become is what they're going to pass on to their children, and it goes on and on and on and on. And we will continue to be mentally enslaved, brainwashed, poor. And you think it's just nature doing it. It's also man-made. I'm going to take a moment and share with you the video on the children program that OMSI is doing, having children sponsored. And I just want to thank those of you who have really done a marvelous job. Some of those children are being sponsored. It just warms my heart to see parents excited that we are, this is what it is when we stop being brainwashed and say, okay, these lives matter. These lives matter. Wherever a Black life is, it matters. And whatever we can do, we go to do it. So I'm just going to play this again. And most of you have seen it, but just in case you haven't, let me play it again. And if you haven't sponsored a child, $1, $2, $3 a month subscription will sponsor a child and help that child survive. Here we go.
African Women Mobilization Commission Child Sponsorship Program. Here at OMSI, we believe that every child deserves a chance to thrive, no matter who they are or where they live, and that opportunities help a child to develop and build precious imagination. A healthy and imaginative mind can see the possibilities of the future. And a child with a future can weather the storms of life if given the right tools and the chance. Sponsoring a child helps a child to eat, get an education, have good health care, and gain a friend and mentor in you. I know you want to know more. Sponsor a child by visiting AfricanWomenCommission.net. After all, a child is waiting. Register to meet your sponsored child today.
And I'm happy to announce that 6 children have been sponsored. Thank you so much. And we go to the website. There Right now we have about 40 children showing up there. We don't care who they are. They're just children that need to be supported. That's all you have to do. Pick a child. I don't care if all you're giving that child is $2 every month, whatever it is. When we get to $100, when we have several individuals who support that child up to $100, we send the money to them. And next Sunday, I'm excited to present to you a video that we've compiled from the beginning when this little boy was sponsored and where he is now, what he looked like before and what he looks like now. You will be so thrilled for this kid. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed these sessions today. Oh, let me remind you, when March, please put it on your calendar. If you haven't done, I don't know if I've done that, but we're having a face-to-face in March of next year here in Atlanta, Georgia. Dibias, we're going to invite you. You're going to have to come here. You know what I'm saying? Did you hear me? And he didn't say anything.
I think he's a bit on mute.
We're gonna have a face-to-face ceremony. Yeah, by the way.
I heard you loud and clear.
Okay, we're having a cheese celebration here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to start sending out the flyer so you can put it on your calendar. I don't care where you are. Dr. Monet, you have to come from Michigan. Akachi from Houston. Dr. Chiedozie, by God's will, we'll drag you here if we have to. Of course, here, and we're going to have different people here. It's going to be an exciting program here where we get to meet each other.
Yes.
We get to meet each other. That is March the 25th. Please make a note of, 26th. March 26th of 2023 is going to be a face-to-face. We still have the conference online, but this one is face-to-face. I'm going to start sending out the information where we're going to host it. And please, March 26th, 2023, put it on your list. That is a Chiism celebration day. So bring your family, get on the plane, get on the bus. I don't care how you get here. Just get here so we can see each other, praise Chineke together. All right?
Yes.
So I've given you the date. Don't say you don't know. For joining us, I look forward to next Sunday. And remember, I'm going to show you that beautiful video about that precious boy and all the other 6 kids that have been sponsored and what your little few dollars, the lives you're changing. We sure appreciate you. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful
you.
All of you who made
Yagaze.
Thank you. Yagaze to everyone. And so Messiano. Well, don't forget to, before I forget, don't forget, if you have not subscribed to Chiism Live on YouTube, go and subscribe. Our numbers are growing. I want us to get to 200 by next Sunday. Can we do that? Call your friends, call somebody. Tell them, go in there. I don't care what part of Africa you're in or America you're in. Let's get it to 200. 200 by next Sunday. Can we do that? Yes, we can. I'll be keeping time. Thank you. I love you all.
Love you.
Yagazie.
No, Yagazie.